Okay, hello everyone. I made a little bit of changes for my table sizes and such, and also editing the zooming a little bit, so we can maybe it's a bit better now to watch. So there is only the four tables visible, and I can also now zoom. I don't know if the zooms are necessarily perfect, but they should be quite decent at least. Ace-Jack shooter. I could definitely 3-bet here. Well, let's go for the 3-bet. Only downside is that I can't really stack off, so if I face the 4-bet. If I face the 4-bet, I have to fold. Wow, this guy limp calling against the 3-bet. Well, of course this guy can probably have kind of anything, but I try to go for smallish c-bet here and try to take the pot down on board that shouldn't be hitting his range much at least. I mean, checking and calling makes some sense, but I don't have any hearts on my hand, and it's going to be really awkward to continue overall out of position like that. So yeah, when you see someone making that sort of play, you can kind of be absolutely sure that will end his piece. Well, open limping itself is something that shouldn't really happen outside of small blind with deeper stacks, to be honest, but yeah. So as always, if you have anything to ask, comment, talk, feel free to use the chat. I actually forgot to open the MTT this time, but yeah, maybe I will just play purely SNG. Well, most of the games are SNG anyway, but family pot on the outside table. Well, I didn't really get anything outside of backdoor stuff. Seems like I have some issues with my connection as well, because I'm dropping out frames currently quite a lot. Well, obviously calling ace-3 against 6 big blind is B shove. The upper right kind of bad board for me, considering range-wise. Yeah, big blind can definitely have more stronger stuff, but obviously now that we actually turn trips here, we can pretty happily value bet. And I would assume that Will Lane would bet turn himself with a lot of 4x, so I will actually go for value bet here. So if he raises, it's kind of interesting spot. I don't have the video capture device either. Well, it's actually kind of bad to have now because, well, I don't know. It doesn't block anything, actually. At least in 5 max games. I mean, if it was 6 max games, then I suppose it would be blocking one of the players. Maybe I should try to reboot my router. Might help for the connection side. It should be actually something that I should be doing more frequently. I'll actually try to do that. I will cut the connection stream for a moment, and well, actually I can't because obviously I can't. Actually, let's take that back. Obviously, I can't play either if I disconnect connection. Well, in upper left, definitely check calling tier with the middle pair, and if he double barrels, we can fold out. We don't really improve. Don't have any help for our pair at that point. And on the upper right, I will try to go for check raise on the turn. Oh, he pots it. Well, let's go anyway for the check shove. Check raise. I don't know. Maybe calling would be more sensible against that sizing. Yeah, actually I don't like this line when I think about it a little bit more. I mean, it's limped bot, so him having AX will be somewhat. Of course, if he has AX and plays it like that, I think there is a big chance that he's going to call anyway. And if he has some sort of combo draw, he might be calling anyway, but yeah. Pocket nines, bottom left. Well, just flat. We can 3-bet, but it's kind of awkward to stack off in the outer table. Some whale decided to stack off with crappy ace and one against my pocket kings. Let's go for 3-bet with the suited ace on the bottom right. And queen 9 I can limp call in the bottom left. It has decent playability. The whole flop doesn't connect in any way. On the top left this guy is really active, so definitely showing that ace 10. Stacking off with the. We'll actually bluff here in the bottom left. It's kind of a scare card, I suppose. We can definitely value bet 10x here at least. And ace jack I will raise call here. I'm not too happy about it, but and he wakes up with the kings, of course. No ace for me. And this was the table that I had that my pocket kings cracked. Probably this guy won't be folding, but I don't really mind flipping here. And we wait his outs, but two bigger pairs on the flop, so or board. Well, I don't see too much point in betting with the 4-3. And we do get the low end of straight. Kind of questionable, can we value bet it? So how many 8x does he really have? I suppose I have to call here. There are two busted flush draw possibilities, and I do have the practical second nut, so of course against his sizing it's not 8-2 off. Okay. Oh, well. Yep. Of course he has 8-2 off limping. Calling flop with the turn with the gutshots. Well, he actually had double gutshots, but nice hand in a way, but stack depth is so low that I don't really like too much to call. The bottom left alternative line would have been to bet the turn and bet the river, I would say. But we had some showdown value anyway, so not really necessary to turn into bluff in my opinion. Yeah, I think I just go for check raise against this guy. We have pretty good here. And he nails on the river. Not the greatest session so far. We can bet smallish here on the bottom left. Of course, queen is going to be hitting, and on the top right, I have to call against this reg with the pocket forestall. I think it's pretty much the absolute bottom of the calling range, and we somehow evade. Zillion outs. Well, not quite that many, but the bottom right, well, yeah, we can bet, but I suppose trying to get the showdown is valid as well. The upper right, nice spot to see bet because Villain doesn't have too many AXs with calling that shallow stack, so we can definitely get a lot of folds here. Well, I have huge amount of drop frames. The downside when you are using 4G connection. Sometimes it does work pretty nice, and sometimes not as much. And on the bottom left, we can definitely continue value betting. It's limp spot, so A is pretty strong. Or ace. Upper right, obviously shoving if the button folds, but I'm not going to 3-bet shove that weak of a hand. Of course, it's spot where we can try to put a lot of pressure on the villain, but should not be doing it with total crap anyway. And bottom right, going to 3-bet shove against the practical button open when the button is actually sitting out. And seems like we lost the flip. So yeah, you can leave feedback about do you like if the stream is more like that it contains shows the 4 tables a lot of the time, or would you perhaps prefer to have that I use more of the zooming stuff like this? Obviously calling here we have decent pair, open-ended straight draw with extra flop, so villain can attack pretty wide. There is no value pretty much in betting. Trying to get value from 8x would be pretty thin attempt. And of course raising with the queens against this limp. bottom right against this reg we have great hand. Great hand to bet for value. I could make the tables also like a little bit smaller so that they wouldn't overlap each other at all, but at the same time I think they start to be a bit too small for my taste personally. Not necessarily for stream viewers, but for my personal experience. Well, ace jack off on the bottom right. We can 3-bet or call. I think I go for the 3-bet. We are in position, so we can use somewhat smaller sizing. And nice double up. And once again, some weirdo is making cold 3-bet, cold call against 3-bet. Yeah, and then donk betting looks pretty solid, but we have to fold obviously with the plain A high. Let's try to limp with the 8-7 of nice playability. Unfortunately, pocket sixes I can't be stacking off in that stack distribution. I think something like pocket 8s I could call here, but pocket sixes should be too weak. And 7-6 I will shove against the small stack and run into nuts, but not enough in showdown. Luckily. One weird bet. I was kind of want to fold that top pair, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of folding top pairs, obviously, on the flop, but he makes it such a huge sizing against two people. Well, let's spin it. And huge setup on the heads up here. I will go for check raise here with my king 8. It's pretty drawy board, so we can have a lot of semi bluffs as well. And that way we protect our hand somewhat as well, because there are a lot of bad possible board runs. And on the top left, I don't really, there's not too much point in betting overall. Let's call once. We can probably give up. It's not. Well, I don't think folding turn would be bad overall, but I mean, Jack blocks some of the semi bluffs he could have, so that's kind of awkward. Interesting spot on the bottom left, because I obviously can't have too many check raise bluffs, but I think I will go this time for small check raise. These are kind of interesting moves, because I obviously read very little here, so we might get willing to do some spewy stuff. Well, unfortunately not this time. Not this time. And he's house 24 big blind. Well, I suppose calling wouldn't be horrible either, but just that when he shoves that much, it's usually going to be with pretty strong range. That doesn't really have usually weaker hands, or at least not many weaker hands. If he shoves again here, I think I will call the ace-9. I don't mind to fold these crappy Jack X necessarily. I think on the bottom right we can go either way here. Check call or check a bet. It's kind of hard to get value, to be honest, by betting, so I think I check again and call if he bets. Pocket deuces, and let's go for limp. I'm looking for limp shove if he makes more raised here. Open shoving would be reasonable as well. Min raising is kind of, I think, with bit over 20 big blind. Because facing, we can't be raise calling really, so. And here I basically just try to take the pot down and deny as much equity as possible. It's still a high flop, so there is a little less chance that, because he's probably not going to check a lot of the AX on the, here on the bottom right, going for semi-bluff. Well, not the greatest card, to be honest. I think I just give up here. Well, we don't have any fold equity most likely on the upper right, so ace-6 is going to be a bit too weak. Let's go for bet here. We can try to deny some equity. If they happen to check raise, we can happily fold on the three-way, but well, kind of a setup in the outer table. Well, we were quite deep, so I 3-bet bottom open with the ace-queen from the big blind and will lane shove. I suppose folding wouldn't be absurd, but yeah, I don't mind calling either here. And ace-deuce is obviously snap call. Quite spots that I think I will shove on the top left. There is so much so much to gain if everyone folds here. And usually button is basically never calling, so let's check back with the A high. Not flush draw here on the top left. I will quite often personally check those because we have showdown value, and that way we have a bit more of the flush combos on our turn range when it does complete. Some players might be eager to attack in those situations when flush draw completes, because they assume that opponent is going to see bet. Almost always with the flush draws, which is quite often the case. I don't know, maybe I could drop some quality side of the stream. Might help in these times but I don't know. I think it's not possible, at least when you are streaming. So you have to disconnect the stream and then change it. Yeah, calling here we have the jack, sometimes best hand, and obviously the flush draw. And then if he bets, we can fold, obviously. Well, luckily we didn't hit the flush. That would have been ugly this time. And unfortunately run into notched here. On the upper left. Definitely plus EV sharp from my part. On the bottom left, if there were lamp bets again, I would be folding because it's really dry flop. So I actually block with the 5 those only possible semi-bluff combos that has some draw in them. Quite surprising that he doesn't bet again with king. Quite a surprise. Let's open the 8-9. Of course, if these guys are aggressive, this is going to be minus EV open raise. I will lane over bets here, so I think I just fold right away. And pocket 7s, it's quite close, I suppose. I think I go for the call, but it's close one. Winning the flip seems to be a miracle at this point. Actually spots that I could check later. How reasonable is it when there is so many so big 3-bet shove overall? I mean, when he shoves like that, I would assume that the range tends to be somewhat capped, so I wouldn't assume that Williams usually shoving like biggest pocket pairs like that. I actually have 325 in registration, so let's take. There seems to be a lot of 10 euro games. Games currently running 80 seats. Yeah, my connection is really on the slow part today. It's basically now opens the Guacho image that I took like half minute ago or something. Well, let's make. We can go either way here on the top left, check or small bet. Actually, on that turn we can turn the hand into bluff, but he actually don't bet, so maybe not. Oh well. It's the kind of nasty side that you don't get in EV data when you get these runs that nothing works pretty much. At least like over longer period, it's nice as sort of mental support. Well, that's scrappy to flop. I think I just fold. I mean, I only have one clean out, even if the four of hearts comes, it's not necessarily good. Let's go for the raise against the limp with ace 8 suited. I think we can go either way. Either way here, checking or raising. Just folding against pot size bet here, definitely. Also three-way pot, so I should in general give a bit more credit to bets. I would call here if I had the ace of hearts, 8 of something else than hearts. I think this one we can just fold right away. And let's try to spew a little bit on the upper right. I'm making light 3-bet here. And these lines are always so weird, like in the bottom left. Turn comes deuce, and now the villain is donk betting. Now the villain is donk betting. Like such a major change on the board. Well, obviously checking on the turn on the upper right, and it's kind of a nasty spot if the villain bets the river. Which he does. Of course, I only need to be good, like 1 out of 5. 5 times roughly. Pocket 6 is flopping over pair. There is like some point in a way to lead here, but I think the main problem is that when you get called, you are not usually going to be in that great of a shape against the calling ranges. And going to double barrel here on the top left. And villain keeps calling. Of course, we have some tiny bit of blocker value against some straight, but I think he quite often has king or jack tier type of hand, which he's not folding most likely. King 9 flop call. I think it's quite questionable. Well, I don't know. I suppose he was actually big blind on the previous hand, so I suppose it's sort of sensible. Sort of sensible, perhaps. Well, let's go for lead here on the bottom right. Both villain calls. Well, hard to believe that he would have 5x here, but of course we can have like slow played, some slow played stuff. Well, spade draw doesn't at least improve on the bottom left. I had it. Yep, thanks for the setup. Oh well. Skull at the top left, we can basically stack off. Of course, the plus draw completes, but I think I will stack off anyway. Let's raise on the top left. Well, nice looking spot on the bottom left. And just try to stab the dot down on the top left. One thing of the pocket pairs is that usually they are kind of hands that you rarely want to go for any multiple barrels as bluff. Tends to have low chances to improve, so I decided to check tier this time on the bottom right to have some of the king X in the checking range. River is kind of interesting. Basically, small blind shouldn't have too many 7x's, so I will try to bet small here for value and as kind of inducer that we might induce bluff from some 10 jack or flush draw or that type of stuff. And on the bottom right, nice spot to make non-all-in 4-bet. No, non-all-in small 4-bet. And unfortunately, a high flop. Not just such a great spot, to be honest. Well, unfortunately our cut shot didn't improve. Four pairing on the top left is kind of bad, because now we are basically aiming for 6x to call, so maybe I will try to use it as check call hand. Well, Queen 10 is quite strong hand on the top left, so his sizing is on the big side as well, but I think I still called here. And was planning to shove against the C, but now that he shoves, it's kind of, I suppose we have to fold. Here. Making such over bet C, but well, let's hope that he had strong hand, so he didn't get value. these guys that limps all the time, even with deeper stacks, I think it's kind of nasty to play, because in a way that heads-up games, because of that massive limping play, they just tend to last forever, because the bots don't build bigger most of the time. Usually I prefer personally to open raise most of my range with these. Well, now we are a bit shallower, but the blinds went up as well. Well, shoving is kind of only option as default on the top left. Of course, you can think that maybe his range is too strong here when he actually increases his sizing, but yeah, I think folding still or just calling would be kind of awkward, especially when he uses bigger sizing, so we are not getting as good pot odds to call. And evening to Lapis. A kind of interesting spot on the bottom left. I suppose we can kind of raise here for and that is one solid flop. And planning to raise on the bottom right. We have strong top pair, so we can actually just shove here. I mean, if we make like 400, it's going to be kind of situation that we can't have too much of folding range anyway. So by shoving, we end the decision making here. So the main benefit is simply that, because if I raise small, he calls, and diamond comes on the turn, it becomes quite awkward situation. Let's try to limp with the 5-6. It's kind of a questionable hand to shove, but there's some playability. And kind of close, whatever should I try to value bet, but I think it's really tough to get call from the weaker hand. In a way that he shouldn't have too many. Well, he somehow actually had the 3x. I was thinking that he doesn't have too many 3x's, and when he calls with that stack that he probably don't have huge amount of pairs or ax either. So he could sometimes definitely have like some queen x here, checking and check calling. Two players here. I think I will actually step here. I will usually get good amount of respect here, and of course my A high has some showdown value, but it's not too much. And flopping the nuts or second nuts with the 4 deuce. I will just call here. Let's hope that there is no like 7 or 4 type of card. Oh, Jesus, this. Well, luckily he was checked, so we can't release value bet here anymore with the three of a kind of the board. Oh Jesus. Such bullshit. Well, luckily by choosing the passive line we actually saved money. He was never going to obviously give up on the a6. But I don't really mind, like my plate here will lend min raising pre-flop, so we get such absurd pot odds from position. With somewhat playable hand. Well, not that playable, but still suited. One capper connector, so can't be too horrible. And queen 5 suited. Yeah, I can't really call it here. And that is one crappy flop. One crappy flop for my range. Well, we could bet turn or river on the top left, top right, but I mean we have solid showdown value with kind of a nutty high card hand. So how is the stream working? Because I have had quite a few ton of dropped frames so far on my statistics here. I don't know, like I suppose I should reboot my router for once in a while here, because that might help. And I'm planning a call with the queen 10 against the shove. Main benefit here is that the hand will be playing good post flop, so I mean if I open shove, not that many better hands or weaker hands are going to call, so that's also the downside of shoving the hand. Queen 10 on the top left, I think it's the absolute bottom of the profitable range here in the Nash. And 9, then 9 suited I will open shove, don't want to limp call or limp fold. And so, as Lapis might have noticed, I changed the table sizing recording area a little bit, so we only see now the exact 4 tables I'm playing. I think it makes probably more sense that way. And I also have the tunes here, so if I'm using those, so I don't know if people want those to be used or not. You can give feedback, or anyone watching this video later can also give some feedback. Queen deuce off 7 pp with the ante. I don't know, I suppose shoving would make some sense, but it's a bit outside of the Nash, so let's try to limp. It's still queen high, so open folding feels kind of a weak as well. Five, 6 is probably not shove hand in Nash. Well, let's fold. You can go wider than Nash in general in the heads up, so I think like shoving wouldn't be horrible by any means, but queen then suited, I will 3-bet shove on the top left. Let's see. Happy ending overall. Heart. Nope. And really clear shove in the bottom left. It's quite rare that there is still 4 people with those pretty sizable. I go for shove here, bottom right, the villain can be really wide. Of course calling has benefits as well, we keep his range wide and hand does flop pretty nice, but it's actually quite close on the king jack. I think in the Nash it might be call, but I think I will go for fold as default without having info that he would be wide here. 4-6 straight flush, that's enough. That's enough usually. Happy to see the flop with the 9 deuce. Obviously we are almost never hitting anything decent. A lot of big hands here on the bottom left, but unfortunately we don't really get any action for them. Volk would be nice. He wasn't friendly enough for that. I think the note on the bottom right is that the villain did go for the shove here. We are pretty deep stacked, so if he's making a lot of those, we can definitely, once again, he goes for the shove. So we can assume that he's probably making them with somewhat wider range than we would usually assume. So we can go for a bit wider stack-offs if needed, if the situation pops up. Yeah, the connection. Now I have pocket aces here. Well, I will be shoving that one as well with the 7 big blind I have. Please call. Queens now. Well, maybe someone raises before me. Yeah, I was thinking about limping, but I mean we have 7 big blind. Queen 10. I think it's pretty close, but still make the fold. The bottom right is kind of saying, I suppose, that he has the 10x more often than not, but yeah, let's just fold that 3x the pot. The top of bottom left, I think, well, I can't call anymore. I was going to call the open shove, but I think it's not strong enough to overcall, probably. And 6 on the river. I think I will call, so these are always kind of tough situations because this is going to be a nice call, but how wide the villain is actually showing, that's always the kind of question mark. I think we can go either way with that hand, to be honest. And when we actually get calls for the quite decent hand, we run into better hands. Well, the ace-4 wasn't, or the previous AX that I run into wasn't great hand, but and unfortunately, big blind waking up. It's pretty close to any 2 spotting that's against the middle stack in the Nash at least. Interesting hand on the top right. I think I will go for check raise. We have such a huge draw. And I will have some ace-4, ace-3, some sets definitely in my range. So, and queen-jack is actually quite pretty close to the bottom of my range here on the bottom, top left because of the stack distribution. Won't be wide in that spot. And now we can ship the turn here. Of course, if he has the ace, I don't know if he's ever folding, but we still have a lot of outs anyway, and those times we have set or 2 pairs, we are beating most of his range anyway. At least he's thinking about it. And we just can't hit one of these sessions. So yeah, it's kind of nasty because like basically to get a cable connection here, it would need to be fiber connection, and it would cost quite a lot, I suppose, as there seems to be not that much people that would want it. So, and they would need to drag it like 2 kilometers to get here. So I suppose it would be like 5-digit number probably to get the fiber here, or at least big 4 number, 4-digit bill. it's good connection in a way that it's quite rarely like totally disconnecting. I don't actually remember when that type of thing would have happened, but at the same time there is these sort of issues with the how fast the connection is and so on. There is pretty much, or of course he might have some pocket pair, but it's really tough to get value even if he has like betting. And I really don't like this situation, but I don't know if I can fold either. Well, such stupid flop bet from the villain, basically. Has the showdown values, not a single better hand is folding. Of course this time I was calling with weaker hand, but I mean I have a huge amount of AX that I will check called here as well. So it's kind of questionable to be betting with crappy ace for the villain. Well, on the bottom right, this villain does 3-bet quite a lot, so I think I will be shipping it here. Of course, we are somewhat deep, but I think it should be fine. But it's going to be marginal play. And let's second barrel on the top right. So the downside is if the villain happens to check some, but he shouldn't be doing that often. And that's not really the card we wanted to see. And of course, ace is the nuts. Well, it's fine line by the villain, of course. But we can definitely get like Jack X9 X type of hands to fold by second barreling. Usually at least. It's kind of an interesting spot because I wouldn't assume to have too much showdown value with the A high on this board. And it's basically going to be the bottom of my range. Just try to get the pot down on the bottom right by small c-bet. Well, not the greatest card, but small blind should really rarely have the 8-9 at least, so I think I will still value bet here and hope we can get the free showdown. Free showdown in the river. We can't value bet anymore at this point. And everyone had the 10. What the heck did that small blind have? Okay, well, I suppose he can have anything pretty much. 5-10 offsuit. Well, that is one big whale in my books. Wow, well, I wasn't thinking that I'm against ace queen. I will check back the 10-9. It's kind of awkward if we see bet and face the check raise, so obviously not the greatest turn card. I think it's kind of questionable to value, but so I suppose, I don't know. Well, let's go for it. At the same time, I would imagine king or queen or such hand to often bet themselves on the turn. And queen jack, I think I will go for the check raise. And obviously we have to stack off if he shows. Well, we didn't lose the whole stack, that's positive side. Now let's go for the let's see, but against two people my hand is not going to stay, or I might be beat against better a high anyway, and we get combo draw on the turn here. I mean, this here with the queen jack, the reason I went for the check raise was that I won't have that many better made hands overall, and it was button versus big blind, so ranges should be wide. So queen jack is pretty high in my range. I think with the queen jack I will also go towards the check raised here, and I will shove the king queen when the small blind goes, so we get great risk rewards here. We can definitely get usually these people to fold some AX type of, and well, unfortunately straight is not out anymore. Pocket kings just calling. Oh well, that's rare. Unlucky timing for that hand. aces. This seems to be one of those dig the hole and hopefully climb up sessions. Well, King 9 shooter in the upper right with my stack depth is going to be quite a nutty holding. Well, especially against small blind. And he folds so well. And heart wasn't something we hoped for. Yeah, we could try to bluff here, of course, but it's quite easy for Villain to have something anyway. This is going to be somewhat outside of the NAS, but let's hope that Villain is a bit too tight. Well, interesting card on the bottom right. Yeah, well, suppose I call here and let him the possibility to be bluffing. Of course, the Jack of Diamond is not the greatest card. And sometimes if he has the better, because I think his line looks so strong with this river as well that I don't know, should we shove here anymore, but well, he was bluffing quite a nice hand here. And let's go for non-all-in on the upper right, so that hand I think I will call against 2 all-ins anyway. Well, this is something that happens. I'm not totally sure this might be even fold, but whatever, let's go with it. Well, hopefully this guy doesn't get the ace here. Oh, well, nice showers. Yeah, that's something that I don't personally need to worry about. Like the nearest neighbor is like, I think it's like 200 meters away, so showering in the night is not going to annoy anyone. That's one of the good sides in living in the what's the word in English, omakotitalo in Finnish. It's got quite nice location here actually. It's like 15 kilometers to center of Oulu. So the city is like relatively close. There is not that much traffic, so it's basically like 15-20 minutes with the car. Well, lucky outcome for me in the upper right. Upper right with the AX winning. And King 9 obviously not on the heads up. Unfortunately, we somehow evade everything after that flop. Don't know how it's possible even. And on the outer table, I bet flop, bet turn. It is not set on the. Well, if he has the straight, then unlucky river for me. But and in here with the two overcards, strong flush draw. I think I just have to stack off here. Blind versus blind. Hopefully he's just bluffing and we don't need to improve. Or he might have like 7-6 clubs, who knows, that's possible, definitely plausible thing as well. I think I want to probably pile these again. These start to get kind of messy. Let's check call on the upper right. We have kind of a weakest check X that we can basically have. So, and on the top left, I will go for lead tier. Very drawy flop, so we need to protect our hand. Getting checked on the flop is quite a disaster overall. And kind of interesting spot on the upper right, because we don't block like king queen type of hand, and we do block the jack X, but luckily he didn't bet the river anymore. Well, I wouldn't think that they have that many 7x unless it's 2 pair or maybe like 7-10. Maybe like 7-10. Let's bet big on the bottom left and try to get the pot down, as it's straight on the board. Kind of nasty spot on the river again. Calling with only cut shots and well overcards, but pretty crazy stuff overall. Well, luckily he didn't put me in tough spot here. I will defend with the queen jack suited. It's kind of one of the best possible non-nutty hands that we can defend with, basically. But flop totally misses us. Nothing for us outside of backdoor straight draw, so I'm not going to bluff here. Well, on that river I actually can bluff, because it doesn't matter that much. We just want to use the bottom of our range for bluffing in this sort of situation. And that's pretty much the bottom I can have here, queen high. Okay, well that's nice to hear. It's just 4G cards getting giving better action, I suppose. Oh yeah, sometimes those nasty board runs can help you as well. I would not have tried to bluff here unless it came like that for flush board. Betting that, calling that min bet, definitely. Let's limp with that crappy ace. We are over 20 big blind deep, so shoving would be kind of bad. Open shoving wouldn't, limp shoving wouldn't be horrible here, but I think I prefer just calling against his 2.5 pp raise. And well, basically flop can't be a lot better than that, I suppose. It doesn't make sense to raise here, especially as we still have the blocker kicker problem that we don't have anymore. Now it's pretty unlikely that we are behind. Of course it's possible, but there is single combo that actually go for huge overshove here and hope that he has the king. He had. Nice. Well, obviously situation that here I'm never ever having anything else than the hand I have, but it doesn't matter when the villain doesn't know that or is unable to fold. Fold the king X. Go for, well, I don't know, we have some showdown value with the queen high. I was thinking that do we want to go for like delayed c-bet or something. Suppose it's not horrible, we can probably get some a-highs to fold here and maybe some small pocket pairs sometimes. This is actually an interesting spot. I think I just call here because we definitely can have some full houses. Of course it's going to be rare, but the thing is that is he bet calling that big, betting that big and calling with any weaker hand. So and he actually had the ace checked here. So yeah, some players would have been happily shoving or raising at least. Kind of unlucky that he actually had big angst here. Well, we didn't face bet anymore. I probably called. I mean, it's not as big of an advantage to have the king flush blocker, but it's still like somewhat better than having king 7 without the diamond tier. I have also one heads up running on the outside table, but well, nasty board run on the outside table, c-bet flop, turn goes checked, and I can't really call it here. It's pretty hard to be ahead actually. That's board run out. Pretty hard. I'm going to 3-bet shove here against this guy. I think it's fine to mix some of these sort of hands in this shoving range. Can obviously get huge amount of better hands to fold, and kind of interesting spot on the top right that can we get weaker hand to call. Because like if he has the 10 on the flop, it's not much of a hand at that point anymore. So I think I will just check back here. And yeah, well, I kind of quickly called here, but I suppose it's fine. Of course we are huge stack versus huge stack, but at the same time, when he makes that sort of shove, I don't know, like, does he ever have like big pocket pair at least, so. And well, this time we were at least, but it might actually be kind of questionable spots that with the ICM, if we strictly follow that I suppose double up is still going to be such a big reward tier that we can probably still just stack off anyway. Kind of awkward on the outside table. Heads up will lane 3x raising, and it's first time that he makes it bigger. I decided to hold my 9-jack off. And on the outside table, again, kind of. Well, I think I fold here. Villain can have some full houses, and he might be sometimes maybe betting some bigger pocket pair. Perhaps. And turning the set on the top left. And nice blank river, so we can definitely value, but still. probably losing quite often here, but it doesn't make sense to try to bluff that hand. Well, let's fold bet. I'm kind of hesitant to fold it here, mainly because it shouldn't be hitting his range that much on that board, but yeah, at the same time, people do make such absurd preflop calls that basically who knows what they can have. So it's kind of dangerous to go too far into thinking that Lane shouldn't have much on that board. Often. Well, he didn't fold. Tried to just stack the pots down in the paired board without too much showdown value. Shoving on the bottom right with my flush draw. Also boards that will end probably see bets very often. Well, he had the monster. Well, let's take this heads up now here. Has been for decades. These 9 ace deuce suited, pretty nice hands to shove here. 3 steel. Yeah, but it's maybe visible in the. Suppose I go for bluff here with my mighty draw. It's kind of a nice hand to be bluffing if the villain call and river is total blank, because we don't block any of the possible draws villain could have. We still have the guts up here, so some nut potential at least. I think I shove here. There are quite a decent amount of busted draws. If the villain has like AX, there is decent chance that we are getting called. And does our A high hold? It does. And kind of nutty hand on the bottom left in the limped pot scenario. It's really rare that villain has the ace here. And this guy is sitting out at least momentarily. The good thing is that he will auto-fold if he's sitting out, even if I limp, so, and I would have limped that hand anyway. Shoving top left with that that one. Too strong to do anything else, basically. Too weak to be inducing. Kind of nice check backhand on the bottom left with the Jack of Hearts. And once we let check on the top left, it's usually quite safe for us to be betting. Facing check raise is quite rare, and I would probably call anyway. Hope that he was not slow playing mate hand, and ace-5 I have to call it here. That was bad call on the top right. Bad call. Because of the villain stack depth, he's just way too shallow for me to be defending that hand. Okay, well, hopefully we don't get too many interesting situations, so you will get sleep. I suppose that is kind of a questionable hope while streaming. Well, checking the 8th third pair upper right, and hopefully min bet call. Can we be good here? We don't really need to be good, like 1 out of 6 times, so I suppose I call and let's see if the miracle happens. Oh, he has 2 pairs. And the other villain had Jack X, so shoving 7-6 in that stack situation. And we flop decently. Of course, it's kind of a dangerous board, but I think I prefer to just bet and stack off still. There are also draws. Ace-5 is too weak. Draws villain might try to semi-bluff against me, and I have the gutshot as support anyway if the villain has 2 pairs, so I will have some equity anyway. I think King 9 shooter is actually quite close on the top left. From the big blind I would definitely call, but well, after seeing that crap, it's definitely good to stack off against this guy. He seems to be way too wide. At least in that situation. Happily checking with that crappy king. You don't usually want to shove those or raise those because they are quite easily dominated against limping hands that give action. We are kind of deep still on the top left, so I don't want to be check raising and stacking off here with the second pair. And ace-4 we can. I usually prefer to just open shove these crappy offsuit aces with like a bit over 10 big blind deep. Definitely plus EV, and the thing is that when you induce with those hands, it's really rare that you are dominating hands that you get action from. So it's often going to be like you are 55% favorite against some king 10 or whatever, and quite easily, of course. Well, if he has, of course, the point is that if he has better hand, he's going to call against the shove anyway. So That's not really the problem of inducing. It's just that we are just so little bit ahead of the hands that most of the hands that we induce anyway, that it's just not not worth it. Or we kind of gain so much by creating the fold equity that on the preflop by shoving, that I think it's better than inducing. King 8 is kind of interesting hand in a way that if the villain shove, I don't like any option. And flopping the trips on the upper right. I would be betting here decent amount of semi-bluffs also, so betting that one is kind of mandatory. And there are busted draw possibilities. Maybe villain might be betting bigger. So with that sizing, I kind of think that he might be having the flush or air, but I think I can't fold top 2 in this spot. And he has the straight. Oh, made kind of a misclick on the outer table. Interesting fish line. I limped from the small blind, and now I'm min betting against preflop aggressor as he raised against my small blind limp, because I was thinking that I limped and he checked behind, and I was min betting for value as he bet here. Obviously I have to call his raise anyway. This is the situation. And calling with the crappy ace against like 6-7 big blind, it's kind of similar situation than here. Oh well, I think I need to call here anyway, but I'm not too happy about it. King 6. Well, lucky as. Let's shove the 4-5 suited on the top left. Might sometimes raise this 5-6 as well. So usually I would not shove but use smaller sizing. But I mean, I shoved the previous hand, so let's not be aggressive every time possible. 10-6 suited should be plus EV in Nash pretty nicely, so I think with the blinds going up, I would just go for the open shove here. And win from the top left table. Two players. I will go with the c-bet with my nut plugger. Oh, he bets. Well, I will then go for raise, and obviously stack off if he wants. a way you can also call, because then you keep this small blind player and also this guy with wider range, so they can more easily have weaker flushes when you do improve. But I think there are merits in either way. Raising, we create the fold equity and don't need to hit as often. 9 queen is a bit too weak, I would say. This guy 4x open, raising small blind. I think I just fold the crappy ace. Don't like it, but it's going to be so expensive to call as well. And shoving is probably going to be quite spoovy. I was starting to say that hopefully it splits pot on the upper right, but that's not bad either. Flopping the full house. Not a bad alternative. And alive, but unlucky. No correct river. Oh, exactly same name. Oh. Well, it's the real name, so I suppose it's totally plausible. Or actually, yeah. I mean, you probably mean my name, like Jari Koski. It's kind of interesting when you speak English and then you are kind of saying your own name in English way, or like starting to pronounce it non-Finnish way, like Chari type or something like that. Yeah. Well, let's check on the limped pot with the king high, backdoor, not flush draw, or almost not flush draw, practical not flush draw, I suppose. And can't really raise fold on the bottom left against the min raise. I mean, it's limped pot, so I think I still have to also, when the second ace comes, it decreases his chance to have the ace. Of course, my queen is blocking some of his semi-bluffs, which is not the best thing. Well. Seven 8 also did complete here. I'll just give up here. He can still definitely have. It's not like he can't have the AX, even if it's checked pre. I think I'd saw the 8-9. It's kind of nasty hand to be limp folded. Oh well. I wouldn't mind if there was like 8 popping out on the river. I'd have to call the ace 5. hopefully no 8 now. Okay, let's not see the flop 10. And on the upper bottom left, I will stack off here. Small button calling will usually give some dead chips on the pot, so we get bit better pot odds. Unfortunately, he has it. There was some split possibilities also on the but didn't happen. I'm not too eager about that spot, but I think it's going to be fine spot to take with the pocket sevens. Oh, nice! We got some possibility for heads up spot here, bottom left. And full house is good. And ace deuce, if there is no raise, it's going to be definitely obviously shoving hand, but if there is, it's kind of a... I would probably have folded against open raise, because you have like 0 fold equity, and I don't know, maybe against button we could be stacking off still, but and now we would have decent chance to double up into good sort of stack depth. Well, not looking too good with 2 callers and board like that. And nice 7. That's exactly what that guy deserves. Ace 10 winning. Exactly what that guy deserves after indulging with pocket fours. Such a horrible line. I should have bet here on the bottom right, but I suppose I will then check call with the backdraw flush draw gutshot overcard. I don't know, I think it's quite common, at least for poker streamers, that they actually have their real name as channel name, but I'm not totally sure about that. Will be defending that 4 jack on the bottom right. Okay, we have 3 €25 games here. Kind of interesting hand to pocket 8. Kind of everything is reasonable, I suppose. I was planning if the villain raised small, I would have shoved on the. Would he try to bluff here if I check 3rd time? I mean, by taking this line, I at least lose minimum if he happens to have the queen. So I don't know but it's quite unlikely that he has any 2 pairs, so I think I probably can check raise anyway. And he had the queen, so we lost the absolute minimum after choosing that line pre-flop. Pretty much. I mean, when I check 3 times, it's should induce villain to sometimes try to bluff, at least when he has some total air. Yeah, I think I have to call here once and turn the nuts. I will just go for check shove here. Hopefully he doesn't have better. Well, it's good when he doesn't snap call. Almost straight, but not quite. Well, I think we are actually back into profit, a little tiny bit. So the quite decent hole is filled now. Well, I actually got the last step of my grind through bonus as well, so 20 euros from that. Usually using those 100 euro bonuses that you need to rake to open. Well, that is one nice looking flop on the top left. Going for check shove if the villain bets. He doesn't. We still have really often the best hand though here, so let's just value bet, let's protect. I suppose on the bottom left we have the guts of 2 overcards. It's decent pot odd, so let's peel it. Of course there is the flush draw as well, so that makes it a bit questionable, I suppose. Let's go for like 3-bet. I think I just fold this ace-3 in this quite extreme stack setup. I mean, even if we hit the ace and he triple barrels, it will bring a lot of nasty decisions. Unless we hit like 2 pairs. So just easier to give the credit, not take. Of course he might be raising like most of his range, any 2 maybe. By small sizing it's possible, but it's kind of nasty to take risks in those situations, even if you can pay. Probably you can shove. It depends like how the villain actually plays. If he raises, min raises like all of his range, then we can definitely shove very likely profitably, but it's just that we are taking big risk for quite little gain overall. We can just call as well with the king jack, but I think with that stack it's totally fine. Either way, but unfortunately running into big one here. Oh. Well, I will restart this router after this stream, and well, I think I need to shove this anyway. We have pot size. He can definitely have some weaker 2 pairs. E7, nice river. Well, I don't know if he would have folded anyway. I would have shoved the river if he had checked anyway. Let's check here. It's nice to have some of the queen x's in the checking range, so we can have some clear hand to be. Well, I could have opened up the pocket kings here as well, but I don't know. Suppose it's fine either way, especially if I don't recognize the small blind. We might induce more action this way. And on the upper right, nice spot for light 3-bets as well, so it's always nice when you catch big hand in those spots. We'll just check folds on the top bottom left. We have some showdown value against like some weaker king high type of hands that we then might try to check to showdown as well. And let's go for 3-bet shove on the top right. We are like a bit over 20 big blind deep against cutoff open, so standard stuff overall. And on the outer table we are against one, the OMC rec guy. It ended on the flop 3-bet after my pre-flop 3-bet had ace queen suited. And once this guy checks, we have the best hand relatively often. Of course, he might be trapping sometimes, but king is not the greatest card, so I suppose I could go for kind of a blocker value, but if I bet small, he might still go some a high. If he raises, I just, well, sizing is small, but I don't know. Is he ever bluffing here? Who knows? But yeah, I have to disconnect that router. It's quite surprisingly often does help. I think I haven't done that in quite a while, so it might be the main reason why it's not doing that good. It was, well, in the yesterday's stream when there was also the Skype call. I suppose that took some bandwidth. So I would think that only audio doesn't take that much, but club ace, and losing with the ace queen versus ace jack as well. Oh well. Well, that is one big bet. Not well, some busted draws, but kind of strong looking line. He was also betting smallish on flop and turn, so he can definitely have like some 6x's. That was on practical nuts on the river. Let's raise with the ace 10 against these million limpers. Hopefully we don't get 4-way, but I would be pretty happy to just take it down pre-flop, but that's almost never happening in that spot. Let's try to make smallish c-bet and just take the pot down. Kind of funny guy on the outside table. He seems to love those min bets. Did like 3 straight min bet line with pocket deuces when the board was something like 4, 5, 6, 7 jack or something. Kind of funny. I don't mind selling here with 9. Go for small ball lines as well, of course, but I think kind of any option is totally fine overall. Well, that was quite a nasty board run on the bottom left, but we have some showdown value, so I would just try to win by checking. And yeah, it could have been bet on the flop as well, maybe bet on the turn, but just kind of nasty if you face that check raise after flop c-bet. Well, nasty on the turn as well, but it's going to happen less often on the turn anyway. And shoving the king jack, so we put maximum pressure on the small blind. And obviously raising against that min bet. Five big blind. Well, let's fold. Anyway, if I don't double him up, I do keep this nice sort of stacked situation. Let's use the crappy hand as small raise here, so we have some balance. Those times we have some sort of nutty hand that we are inducing with. So it's not horrible necessary to use, basically. Just shove everything beside some premium hand, because it's kind of a tough to will then have read that your strategy is such, basically. Just somehow I keep losing so often against these AXs. Well, I could have completed on the top left, but I don't really mind to fold those crappy stuff of suit kings, because, well, they are crappy. We get 3-bet. This would be kind of nice spot to also call, in a way that we then have some of the strong stuff in the case that these guys happens to 3-bet. Especially big blind has nice stacked 3-bet shove, I mean. Well, at least we got action, hopefully we are good. Nines, queen 10, wow. I mean, I don't mind the queen 10 3-bet, but what the heck is he doing with the call? That's the question. It's decent blocker hand in a way to make the squeeze play, but maybe you shouldn't be overcalling anymore. Oh, we turned this straight. Well, let's just raise here. Oh, and this guy, well, let's hope that he doesn't have better. I can't be folding 4 or 5 here. And he tried to bluff with the combo draw. Well, that went quite nicely. Probably in this guy's mind too, because he did get somehow to well, maybe first as well, but at least second. No idea what the heck that wreck was doing on the outside table. So basically, I don't know if I have, maybe I will show it later. Once we get one table ending, let's raise this limp with our 4-5. And pretty decent flop, of course. He might hit as well sometimes here. Oh well, make the huge overshove. Well, obviously on the upper right we are stacking off here if needed. And we are 40 big blind deep, so yeah, I won't be stacking off with ace-3 without some sort of, well, I don't know, even if you have like huge maniac reach, do you want to be flipping with that sort of hand? Is the question. 2.5 pp open, so I probably don't have much fold equity and the hand is not that great. Well, I just called here, but basically I have to stack off against these guys as well because of the pot odds. Well, that is one nice looking, let's not fold that one. Sound effects on the betting action. Kind of interesting spot, but once he checks, I don't know. I think he often doesn't have the better hand, so we probably want to value it anyway. Let's just, well, I will actually just shove here the top pair. Not betting with the queen. Weird play on the top left from the villain. Just shove on the bottom right, we can put some nice pressure on the mid stack. And king deuce suited is a bit too strong, I think. Well, it's close. I don't mind either way, to be honest. Had to put the heart out here. Let's just call on the upper left and keep our calling range protected. By having some really nut potential if the villain happen to go crazy or something. Jesus, what hand on the outer table? Totally absurd. Well, it tells quite much. Villain, I raised from the UTG and Villain showed up with 6-3 suited. Had turned the trips here. And my ace queen with the top pair was screwed. Well, when they get good out with those hands, at least they will believe that it's good play in the long run, perhaps. So it's not all bad when those happens overall. Obviously, I don't have much on the top left, but we'll end win betting, so. And flipping, and river hits. Well, that will probably be one long heads up. Let's go for check raise on the. He blocks it. Well, let's hope that he doesn't 3-bet. Oh, well, I have 4 heads-ups running at this point, so this is little bit hectic. Little bit hectic with two other tables on the side. And we actually flop combo drought here, so stacking off if needed. And that one is good card. I haven't had time to solve that one weird hand that the rec player made, but well, maybe I will post it on my poker strategy blog. Well, let's try to see bet without having any spade and such. Not the greatest hands to be checking, and because it's kind of hard to be calling much at all. Much at all. 4 big blind open. Well, I suppose I still can't fold that. Don't really want to be stacking off that deep any either. These always look scary. I'm totally not surprised if he has he has pocket aces or something, but well, if he has, then he has. And he has the aces. Oh, Jesus. Giving the set for me and 10 for the villain. Nice, nice. Nice, nice. Yeah, but the main point here obviously is that I would have been extremely happily calling against 4-bet shove, but they always make it kind of nasty when they go for those stupid min 4-bet type lines, and it just screams strength basically. Well, I would think I just bump here with the AX and hope he has the 6 or something like that and doesn't let go. Yeah, I think I just shove here and that's it. Let's go for the maximum. Well, against spot where I will never be bluffing really, but or let's say that 99% of time I'm not bluffing here. Of course, if I made smaller bet, he will might sometimes like hero call even weaker stuff, like maybe he was calling with king high or something, and might have called the third time as well against smaller size, but I think we can go for check raise. It's relatively strong top pair. Well, not the greatest turn really. I think even if we want to stack off, it's better to check and at least give him the possibility to be bluffing with 8-9 type of hands and shots. I think this guy has been somewhat crazy overall, so I will still call, and when he sizes it like that, I only need to be good 20% of time, so I don't know, maybe he's always value betting when he makes this sort of minimal bet, but yeah, it's just maniac. As we can see, queen jack spades should really not beat here after flop raise at least. That's quite obvious. That's quite obvious. Well, I don't know if I should do that sort of play against player like that, even though it's kind of standard for me some portion of time. Well, I don't know if I believe this guy, but Jack 8 winning on the bottom left. Well, 8 is kind of sucky card, because if he had something sensible to semi-bluff with it, quite plausibly improved with that one. Oh, he had the 7. Just kind of hard to believe when they make that sort of play on extremely dry flop. Oh, a little bit too much on the open raise size. Well, this is kind of sensible bluffing hand. Well, queen sucks on the river. Well, he had the ace, so probably good that the queen came, that I didn't triple barrel at least. Yeah, probably shouldn't make that sort of play against this guy at least. And practical nut on the river, the bottom left. Some luck on the outside table. Quite surprising that this guy shows up with king jack, because didn't the flop go check check? No. For some reason sometimes this player just doesn't work. And let's 4-bet with 4 nines. I 4-bet 3-bet. And that is crappy flop. I'm going to just check fold here. I can't stack off with the king jack. Almost 40 big blind deep. Well, my deck reads wasn't spot on the upper right. Don't fold straight. Well, shooter's hand I would have obviously placed here, but I think 7-8 is a bit too weak with the cut of open limper. This guy really likes the limping button at least. I'm just going to check call with the 9-4 to have some of the top pairs in my checking range, and when it's the 4, it's kind of nice also that we have some coverage on the board, in a way that if it's a small card, then we can, the 4 will help us somewhat here. If the villain had fired the river on the upper left, I would have folded. And now we are doubling him up again, and once again have fun to grind him down if possible. Oh well. I think that wasn't the first time that we doubled him up. I will be raise calling obviously with king 10 if the villain shove spree. I think I will go for small, well, kind of value protection bet on the bottom right. 300. I don't really believe that he has the ace or deuce that often, so mainly he has the 9 if he has it. Or 6, I suppose. Six outs. Somehow they just can't evade it. Try to bet half pot on the. I think I have to call here. 9x is somewhat unlikely to improve William. Of course he can, well, 9-3, Jesus. Yep. William has literally nothing on the flop and he calls with 9 high. Yep. That's the way, that's the way. That's the way. Well, I think I played these 3 games to end and we will end it. I have to restart that router. For the next time. Hopefully helps on the connection part. I think I will call here. This guy is making so many bluffs that of course he might have like king x or jack 6. Yep. Oh well, how people can be so lucky with the cards. Queen, some luck for me as well. I think he basically always, or at least almost always, limps. Well, that's one way to play. Well, now I would happily take that limp, but not this time. Well, queen 3 with the 4 big blind is definitely. I think it's around 7.5 big blind on the NAS. And river saves him. This one has been really long heads up, I think. I think it's kind of awkward if he shoves now, but Because he has been so passive, but I don't know, maybe he's just adjusting the fact that I have raised his limp so often, and I think this is so good that I will call anyway. Well, then he suddenly sounds total crap. Maybe he was trying to, like, sort of use his tight image or something. I would have been a bit tighter than I would usually be in the calling, but I mean on the king egg in the Nash is going to be like up to 14 big blinds, so. And unfortunately we don't hit anything with the queen jack. Nice hand, but not on that. Not on that board. Yeah, we could try to bluff against some A-highs, but I'm just giving up this one. We have so many better hands to be bluffing here overall. But anyway, we are on the profit from this session. It has actually been recently so that, well, I have to call against this min 3-bet with the suited king. My sessions have been like kind of not so great, but still making like small profit recently. It's kind of weird in my opinion that why they don't offer on the Unibet those hand histories in delayed way like they do actually in, I think they do in the, what was the name, Run It Once site, which is the Bill Galfond site. They are offering those hand histories with some sort of delay, I think a day or something like that. I think they could well offer something like that on Unibet as well. There would be no HUDs, no help in a way, but you could use it. And the point is that people can change the nick also whenever they want here, so it can be easily avoided to not allow any abuse possibilities. This is kind of interesting spot here. That do I want to check because I have kind of a weak kicker anyway, so can I get to street? And I can keep some pot control in a way. When he min bets here, I kind of have to raise anyway. Pretty unlikely that he has better hand. Yeah, let's open. Of course, in this situation, if the big blind wants, he can basically shove against me with quite a big range if I open decently wide. I mean, some people basically never try to abuse in that way. Seven 6 shooter on the bottom left. I think it's not going to be plus EV to call. It's a bit too much, but kind of close, kind of close. Look at queens. Damn it. Should be playing everything almost here. Well, I don't know everything, but like 70% of range at least. Well, of course, overall for me it's great if he's too tight here, giving me. I will defend this one still. Nicely playable hand from position, so it's not on that flop. Pocket aces on both tables. Well, let's just shove it here. It's only 10 big blind deep against small blind, and we lose that one. And it looks kind of nasty in here, but obviously I have to call here with. I have bot odds for the full house draw as well. And luckily we are good. Kind of weird looking bet on the upper right, 120 on this sort of flop. Well, that went nice in the end. And let's see if this guy happens to be too tight, then we can definitely open raise really wide. Min bet tier. I think I could try to raise once here and mostly give up if he calls. Okay. Well, at least unorthodox line, if that's the correct word, or might be correct word, but not pronouncement at least. Well, these guys didn't need too big of a hand. I'm going to bet on the upper right. It's quite often the best hand once the villain check the turn. Well, I don't know. Can't really see much I could be beating here. They are a bit deeper now, so we can definitely have some min-raise folding range on the bottom left. So min-raising the aces. Ratto one just. I always remember forget the term. Well, ordered subscribed for my channel, I suppose is the correct word. So hi to tier, hi to you. Well, nuts, practical nuts on the upper right. Well, let's just call. We definitely can't fold the 5-6 here. I would kind of want to raise as bluff, but I have so many air hands. I have so little air hands here. Like this is close to this only one I basically have that has 0 showdown value. So, well, 4x was too strong for the guy, I suppose. Oh well, king queen. Thing is that this guy's range should be extremely strong overall. I mean, at least from the perspective that he's raising as clear middle stack against clear chip leader, so I think I just knit it up and make a big fold. Well, I don't know big, but pretty solid hand anyway. Kind of close here on the left table, but yeah, let's just fold. It's probably a bit too wide to be showing that one. Well, he probably has some A high on the right table, at least from check line. Oh, pocket aces. Well, he had the nut steer. And that line actually worked pretty nice. I have no idea why this guy is raising the river with his bottom two pairs. Who knows? Probably doesn't know himself either. And ace is one crappy card on the bottom left. Let's hope that he checks, but he probably bets. The problem is that he has a lot of AX, but luckily he didn't this time. Luckily he didn't. Was planning to check raise the turn flop, but unfortunately he didn't. 6-7 call is maybe a bit optimistic here. Sort of player that I suppose he's never folding after limping, at least against 3 PP. Raise. And we hit the 5. Didn't want to bet because if he has like deuce, he probably raises me, and well, it would have been quite questionable bet anyway against most people. Hopefully he spews and this guy actually has some overpair or something. Unfortunately not. A6 can be somewhat close, but it's not going to be quite strong enough. I think something like ace-9 or ace-8 of maybe. I could have ISOs out. Yeah, this Iowa guy doesn't seem to like small raises. Like when he raises pre-flop, it's 4 big blind. Or around that. Well, if the button folded, I could have tried to limp here, and king 10 I have to call against 7 big blind. Button shove, and hopefully split pot. Call, 600 behind. Queen 9. 10 on the river would have been nice. Yeah, this guy doesn't fold. Pre-flop at least. Well, Queen 10 is a bit too big if he shoves, but if he min raises, I can definitely call with pretty nicely playable hand. Kind of nasty. In a way, I would kind of want to float here, but my stack depth is so low that it's not going to be profitable. And Queen 9, I should be at least calling in the Nash. And we lost here. A lot of outs, and we managed to get here. I could actually use the zooming function, I suppose, to get it. Fill the screen. I think I shove with the egg 10, at least if this PP happened to be a decent player. He should be folding huge amount of hands. So it should be plus EV, at least in the NAS ranges. Does he ISO shove? And we won. Well, that was a nice quick ending. Okay, we made pretty nice profit in the end, even though the start of the session was quite a bit of hole diving, so to say. So let's put the results in my Excel sheet. So well, €146 profit, pretty decent after that horrendous or bad start of the session. So yeah, have to restart the router for the next time, and hopefully my connection is going to work better then. We had quite a lot of drop frames today and such. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you like the content, please click the like button and subscribe for my channel for future content. But bye for now.